Yeah, good.
Hello and welcome to another episode of PRSI Gen Next Ideas Exchange Series, the official body of young PR professionals. These are unprecedented times, and the one thing that has clearly emerged is how the whole ecosystem is working together to survive and thrive. From startups and investors to independent advisors and government bodies, all are working to solve problems posed by the COVID 19 outbreak. This initiative to help each other, irrespective of the industry one belongs to, is definitely building lasting relationships among organizations. Media and corporate communications are interdependent, each has certain expectations from the other. And today we thought of focusing on media and PR, the need for synergy. Who better than Richa Mishra, Bureau Chief of the Hindu Business Line, who has been a close friend, mentor, and a well wisher all these years. Welcome, ma'am. And without wasting any further time ado, I had now like to request Priti Setia, Group Head Technology at Factors PR, to kindly carry forward today's proceedings.
Thank you, Shubham. It's a privilege, and I think in all these times, Gen Next Ideas Exchange Series has become my all-time favorite because all that we are discussing here are absolutely emerging and evolving issues. I won't come in middle of it. I can see the chat room already buzzing that they're looking forward to hear from Richa. I'm personally very happy to introduce and this time come across Richa because she's my all-time favorite, and the kind of experience and learning I had from her during my professional career in PR, I think I owe her back. Richa, ladies and gentlemen, for all of us, has been a veteran in the media and in journalism. She is senior associate editor and bureau chief for Hindu Business Line. She started in 1994 and today has about 27 years of experience and her first job with Hindu Business Line as intact. Hindu, as we all know, is the most revered group for journalism, not only for maintaining courage, authenticity, ethnicity, but I think the honest journalism that they follow. And I think Richa has imbibed all of that in her writings and in her columns. In terms of the beats that she manages, she specializes in corporate affairs, finance, and energy sector. And all-time favorite are her column for all of us, which is Babu, Beat, and Capital Ideas. So, Richa, I really welcome you on behalf of PR Society Daily Chapter, and it's my great privilege to be on this part. So, welcome, Richa.
Thank you.
Right. I think while this entire chat line is already buzzing that they want to hear from you, 27 years of journey may not have been easy. So maybe we'll start with, what stays nostalgic because Hindu group has been, seeing to grow and has become, favorite to even millennials today when what they read. So on to you now. How do you explain your internship? You started as an intern to today that you're chief of bureau, a lot of responsibilities. What has changed in all these 27 years?
Oh, a lot has changed. First of all, I'm very pleased to see so many people on a Sunday afternoon. In fact, I was asking Shubham, Sunday afternoon, you think if anyone will come? So I'm like, pleased to see the numbers which are coming in. And before that, a very thank you to Shubham because he knows I'm not too much into the public light. I prefer being the old school journalist, right, and let my writing speak for me. But and yes, Preeti, finally we have given face to each other because we have been interacting for so many years. Now, it's a very interesting question, Preeti, because the concept with which I came into journalism, and with due respect to the people who have come in today, a lot has changed. The very way the profession is being treated is also changed over the years. Uh, I want to take this opportunity to say that journalism is not about shouting. And my mentor was none other than Mr. K. Venugopal, Mr. N. Ram, and my mentors always told me that there's a difference between news and views. So your news reporting is the facts, what is happening, and you bring that out. views, you have a different space to give your views, your, what you think about it. So now over the years, when I see, I think now news is more with views. There's somewhere down the line that the basic news element is missing, which I think the changing times have called for, or whatever be the reason. We can't blame them. But yeah, it's very interesting how the profession has also evolved over the years. Having said so, I'll also say that somewhere down the line, I also find a change that I would bring an anecdote here, which I had heard Sachin Tendulkar say. So Sachin Tendulkar always used to be a slow starter. He would never start with a sixer or he would settle in and then start hitting out. And then we know how his journey has been for everyone to see. So I find that even in our profession, people who have just clocked 2 years or 1 year, they think they are there. No, you have to first build your base. Journalism is a lot of hard work. It's not like it just happens just like that. So somewhere down the line, this is my personal view, I find that is missing. A 1 year old, a 2 year old is not a Sachin Tendulkar in the profession. It takes a while to reach there where you are. So yeah, it's for me, I see the change because I'm still there and I'm dealing with the next generation. So I do see the change. Maybe it is for good. Maybe I'm old school. I don't know. But there, somewhere down the line, I do feel certain things are missing, which we were taught.
Sure. Thank you. And the sectors, Richard, that you write for, are very serious industry sectors. They are the shapers of GDP today. When we look at the views and the news column that we really talk about, how do you think international journalism, the way they write, because it's common for them, right? And they are the indicators for GDP for their nation as well. Uh, if you were to really compare how Indian standards, is there a difference of writing in Indian style, and is there a difference of writing in international style? Because we see international journalists also writing the same sector.
Yeah,
What do
so
you think? Yeah.
yeah, so Priti, that's a very interesting point which you have raised, and I'm glad you have raised it. And if you may call it me doing a PR for Business Line, I don't mind doing that, but I really want to say this. See, in 1994, and I'm sorry I'm taking you back in time. In 1994, when Business Line was launched, that time you had Economic Times, which was a giant, and it's a pink paper, and you had others too. So we had a solid challenge as to how do we place. Now that's where you people are all from branding and marketing team, so you would know it better than I as a editorial person would know. But the challenge before us was, how do we make ourselves different? So if you read Business Line's first tagline, we called ourselves the first white paper in business. And then there was another challenge. Do we want to be a kind of a news journal, or do you want us to present news with an in-depth analysis? Now, why I come to this point is, if you read an FT, or if you read a Wall Street Journal, or a Washington Post, or a Bloomberg pieces, or Reuters, you'll find that there is news, then there is a lot of analysis, a lot of voices in it. So we were told by Mr. Venugopal that that is where we are. So when you write a news, your story should be full. That you're leaving no place for competitor to do anything else. You have covered all the aspects of that story. So we thrived on that, and if you read Business Line, we are still like that. So if you find a business line person, they'll be asking you 101 questions, even on a press release. That, okay, why this? So sometimes as a PR person, you would just say, "Arey, just see the press release. No, it has." But you'll have us asking you more questions. So our idea was to present it. Now, this is very relevant for the sectors which I track. Uh, they are very serious. Yes, energy is very serious. Now, the challenge before us energy reporters is that how do I make the sector relevant for you and me? If I come and tell you, let's take it hypothetically that Priti doesn't know crude oil market. We're just taking it. I said, you know what, Preeti, crude oil prices are racing at this. You'll turn around and say, so what? Big deal. It's a market that's happening. But if I come and tell you, you know what, Preeti, diesel prices have gone up like this, and CNG prices and PNG prices are here. And then you'll say, but why is this happening? I say, why? Because crude oil prices and the product prices have gone up. So what have I done? I have made this your story.
Yeah.
So, that is why a little verbose it may some people may find, but that is the intent. So this is what that is why when business line is there, I can say with full pride that we compete with them. We are no less, we compete with them. So we are actually competing with the international papers, and we created a niche for ourselves right now. So we are basically not just giving you news. We are not even giving you views. We are giving you a holistic stories, and then we have a separate segment where we give our views, which every editorial has an entitlement to, I think. So yes, serious, but how to make serious everyone's story is what is more important and exciting.
Right. I think the era from, I won't say era, but 3 decades ago, 94, everything was print. Nothing too much was hyper online the way it is. And I think as a journalist and as responding to a newspaper, we also, not we, but I think you guys can tell us more as a fraternity, we have to also do goodwill brand India, because now the news is going outside. Everybody has access to online news that we're reporting. Has that Is that a narrative, Richa, that comes our way whenever we are reporting the goodwill India, and therefore controlling the local reporting and making like a global reader reading it?
Yes, there are. That's very interesting thing that you throw in. Uh, I got this opportunity to visit. We journalists call it our war rooms, when we are having our edit meetings in the evening, where you're planning out, your production for that day. So newspaper daily reporting is very different. So I'll transgress a little on the point which we are just talking, but you know what? Television or visual media has made everything there out in the open. So for a newspaper, the challenge is that I am coming out the next day. So how do I keep the story alive, which everyone has seen, through the day? So this is like close to all the print journalists. We must pat our back, because people still like to read.
Right.
They want to see what it is. So how we are doing it is another story. Maybe we'll chat about it a little sometime later. But now, how do we make, you're very right, everything becomes global, everything becomes big, everything becomes larger than life. But there is also every big thing, it becomes because there is an element of local in it. and the local, how the local is impacting the global is the key. Just as I said, no, the global is crude price, but how is the crude price impacting us, the local, is the key. So here also we again play the same, there's a role reversal, but now it's the economies are no longer working in silos. The world is so integrated, there is so much interdependence on each other that no single economy is working in a silo. The US cannot say, I am America and I am doing all on my own. No, US needs India as much. It works together. So every global economic or social decision directly or indirectly affects us. For example, H1B, it is affecting our human movement, and we are the key player there. So, it is so connected today. There is hardly any, variation in this is global and this is local. All the economies have, uh, that's the beauty today, that everyone is connected with each other.
So true,
I
so
mean,
true.
that is how we are seeing it as journalists, and I think it's a very exciting time to be in.
Right. And I think digitization is ushering this era, Richa. The times that making is interesting. And while news would always have relevancy, it also has an archival value to it. So maybe something from your time that you remember, one of the assignment where you represented India contingent, and that story was more closer to you, that gave you a high in your journalistic period. If you could talk to us about that nostalgic story.
So for any oil reporter, I'm purely talking as an energy reporter, the high point is to cover an OPEC meeting. I mean, I see a lot of people from oil and gas world here, energy world here, so they will understand how important OPEC is for the sector. So for me, the high point was to cover a OPEC meeting in Riyadh, and there you are not competing with your local competitors, because OPEC is big for Reuters, Bloomberg, and all the names which we just took. Everyone, it is very, very important. And OPEC's decision just not is West Asia. OPEC's decision affects the entire, you know now of course there's a different level of debate whether OPEC itself is relevant or not. But so yes, that was a high point, and a learning experience also, how they worked as a team. So here it's a very interesting example that CNN, CNN International has a integrated newsroom. So what you see on TV is actually come out from their wire desk. So the wire desk picks up the news. That's how they're working 24 into 7. So most of us now have an integrated news desk. What you see are online, the print is working, and it's the same team of people who are working round the clock. So uh, that's another place where I learned how to do quick stories, because time is very precious. You're working in a different time zone also. How to work as a team, because for them there's always a backup ready. Someone is always backing them up, and there's a constant, and yes, you cannot just go. You'll find many journalists coming in and then meeting the person they're interviewing and say, "Aur bataiye." So you can't go there and just say, "Aur bataiye." You better do your homework and go and then ask the exact question. So yes, covering the OPEC meeting was definitely an experience I'll never forget. And of course, There was one more incident which I'll never forget, was when recently President Trump was here, and we were one of them who was part of the press conference which he held. And in our naivety, we asked, I mean, at least I asked that what is the protocol and how do you go about asking questions? We thought you have to give the question and then someone will moderate and it will be done. And of course, with typical American arrogance, I was told, lady, we are a democracy. You raise your hand and the president spots you and he asks you if you have to. And believe me, that's exactly how it played out. So there were no questions which the president already had, no, nothing. There was no moderator, there was no one. So you had to raise your hand. If the president spotted you, he asked you to ask the question, you asked the question. Now that's a different thing, how he responded, what he responded, where. That's a different debate. But so, that's another thing which was a learning experience for us, because I wish our leaders would be that open and accessible, right or wrong. This is my decision, and here I am. So, yeah, these two were quite interesting, varied but very interesting experiences which I had.
No, I'm sure, representing a contingent and, following how Trump would want you to ask the question in a following discipline is also a learning for PR professionals, us here, to make sure that everybody's time is valued and you have put together an orchestrated, press conference. With pandemic, Richa, everything came to a screeching halt, right? I remember witnessing, and whenever early mornings flight would happen at the airport, at least when I'm flying from Delhi to Bombay, I could see newspapers being circulated, and a typical news reader would, roll a newspaper, put it under the shoulders and, catching up to the flight, or many of them are, literally watching the news on their phone. So that's a news behavior. But press conferences, many things that PR was practicing to the team thing that you mentioned, while it is internally in your organization, but PR and media see each other as an extended team to each other. We kind of facilitate. Our role is to enable the analysis and analytics that you mentioned. It therefore is our job as well to come prepared and therefore to pitch you sound intelligent on behalf of the client. But now with this pandemic, many things have come to a halt. What do you think? How do you think we can revive this in these challenging times? The networking has come to a halt. We are not sitting face to face to each other. Maybe press releases is the only way for us to connect. So, what are the challenges that you see at this time?
So, pandemic actually threw a lot of challenges across setups. For us also, journalists, we are normally used to reporters, particularly. You're supposed to be on field. We don't do armchair reporting. So we had to reinvent ourselves, rework ourselves. It was, I would be lying if I say it was a smooth walk. No, the first few months were very, very challenging. How to, survive in this situation. Of course, one did find their ways out. Now, the other challenge is, of course, as you pointed out, the communication, because uh, all said and done, when you're physically interacting, like face to face, there's a different kind of approach one adopts. A similar communication may not happen with a WhatsApp or an email, or but having said so, I would also say somehow people have forgotten over the years to pick up the phone and call. I mean, everyone is a PR thing. May I appeal to all of you? Please don't send press releases through WhatsApp. Just call up and say, and then email. But, so that is what is happening. It has become more informal, which is like sometimes you feel like it's encroaching on your time or Y or Z's time also, because time is also very precious to everyone. But what I feel is there is a way out. There's definitely a way out. And that is, I can understand that the PR fraternity wants to push the news. The client wants results. I also want understand the journalists are working against a deadline, so they also have their own challenges. So the question here is, how do we bring together both? Because you're not having virtual meetings. Each one is in their own space, working under their own constraints and restrictions. So how do you manage that? The best way out is at least, keep talking, not through WhatsApp, not through emails, but sometimes it's just a good idea to call up and say, hey, what's up? Is something interesting happening? Is something, what you people used to have was called client calls,
Yes.
if I got the word right. So somewhere down the line, I think media calls, sorry, client calls as a media
Media.
call. So I think somewhere down the line that's got lost,
Yes.
and that should be revived. And if that is revived, I think we will be in our way to, finding a solution to this. I personally feel a call makes a lot of difference, given the situation which we are facing, and we have to reinvent ourselves.
Right. We have a similar question in the chat line from GS Bava, and he's asking the same question, how much, how do we manage this synergistic relationship, and how do we, in this time, understand the perspective of a journalist, but also balance from our side the approach? You answered that, Richa, in a way for us, but there's one more question. He's also generalizing this for media channels, as to, do they see a perspective that PR people bring to the table, and how can we richer that perspective, Richa?
See, yeah, so perspective is, I think, best left to the reporter. The PR can actually offer that, or the firm that, okay, this is the news development, or this is it. I think it is it should be best left to the reporter to judge. Sometimes the reporter may not see your point of view. It's highly possible. Sometimes a reporter may say, or a journalist may say, that I'll get back to you when I'm doing a larger story. So perspective is very, very, subjective. You cannot, I mean, what you may see is as a potential or a perspective may hold true for a reporter. A reporter might be having it from a very different approach or a very different angle. But I can tell you this, that every email or every pitch or everything which comes, most of the reporters which are who I know and have like spent quite a lot of time now here, we do read it and we do keep in mind. We may not come back immediately, come back subsequently, that hey, once upon a time you said this, is it happening?
Yes.
So we do see the relevance of it, but on the issue of perspective and how you put it across, I think it's very subjective, it's very individual, it varies from reporter to reporter or a person to a person. Like for example, a product launch, that's a big thing that happens. For an auto reporter, a product launch will be a big thing because a new product, a new auto component is coming out. But for a fashion reporter, what is, so how is it different? Whether it's a cut dress or a V cut dress, what does it make? How is it different? So you see, it's very industry specific also. So for the perspective, if I got his question right, for the perspective bit, I think it's very subjective. We cannot define.
Sure. Following the same, we have a question from Mr. S.S. Rao from PFC, and considering that we have you as a big expert, Richa, here, and seniority that you express, what are the don'ts for PR person?
What are the?
What is it that PR person should not do? What are the
don'ts. Okay.
Yeah. I think we just discussed what are the do's, but big
So
don'ts.
yeah, don'ts for a PR person. All of you are such senior, seasoned professionals that I shouldn't be giving the don'ts list. But what a PR person should definitely do is, and this is, I think, imbibed in all of you when you take up this profession. Your communication skills, your interpersonals play a very key role. And I find, or my experience in recent past has been that the somewhere down the line it's getting diluted. See, it's a very very sensitive area, and your entire profession is about human skill, human interaction, and then you present a subject. Of course, you have content writers, you have this, you have that, but those people have different role. You are the face, you are the facilitator between the company and the media person. So your communication skill plays a very very important role. And sometimes it can be not so happy a scene.
No, sure, get it, get it. I think I'll come back to the year that we are in right now, and while frequency of news reporting and on ground reporting, on record reporting, are kind of impacted, but hats off to all the publications for maintaining that continuity and never at the day brought a halt for reporting. May that be food days, we did not get newspaper dropped at our home, but we could actually have a huge access to the entire news online. A question here, Richa, largely towards, there was also a lot of fake news emergence,
Yes.
right? Uh, so if there are good for online as a platform, there are bads as well, and fake news seem to be a very challenging issue. Connecting your viewpoints on that.
I'm so glad you asked this, because what was happening was that and this is another interesting thing, because this is where a TV reporter is better off than a print reporter, because TV you give one flash, and if it is wrong you just remove that flash. But for print, if you go ahead and write it, it is there to stay. There's no erasing it. You have to issue a correction then. And in the zeal or a hurry, fastest finger first, as I say, people started believing the WhatsApp university more than actually going and finding out or calling up people and checking it out. So yes, lots of fake news emerged, and I'm so glad. I mean, due credit to the Press Information Bureau, as far as the government news was concerned, that they came out with this whole concept of fact check, and they are quick with their responses, because we have done it a number of times, and the news has been actually wrong. So it's where the due diligence then becomes a big challenge. So here, since most of you are professionals belonging to big houses or entities or handling big brands, I my request to all of you would be, many a times big houses also sit in this thing, we don't want to react. Please do. If you don't want it to be published also, please counter it. If it is a wrong news, please counter it. Because if some people, of course, a recent past, someone said, if we counter it, you guys will turn around and say, oh, you are countering, there must be some truth in it. No, it is not like that. Please don't, put us all in the same. Don't see all of us with the same eye. We all have different views. But if a news is wrong, the listed entities have the thing to inform the stock exchange. Just inform the exchange that this news is not right. If it is an unlisted entity but a big house and the news has come, please go ahead and say it's so. I'm glad I see some PSU names also here. I'm so glad they are here. They definitely need to respond when we ask questions. Forever we are waiting for a reply that CMD has to say and this one has to say. No, the communication department should be so well equipped that they could answer it themselves. You always don't need to go to a CMD. Your facts are in place. You can always tell the reporter right or wrong. So, as I said, time is of key, and everyone is going with the concept of fastest finger first. Everyone wants to be there, every first mover advantage, and everyone wants to give the news out first. But fake news is very challenging. And again, I would repeat the thing which PIB has done. I wish a similar kind of mechanism for private sector can also be developed, for PSUs can also be developed. It would be really helpful.
Right. I think the way we say we have right to expression, I think a right to objection is something that we are not, using and practicing very often. So I think we have a message here, Richa. One question that has come to my mind, and probably the senior audience that we have here, speculation is something usually out of control. We often in PR terms call it as a crisis. One wrong news, or you're dealing with Hindu in this line, but a news reporter from Financial Express reported it. I'm just giving an illustration example here. So crisis can come to PR people in any shape and form, but a typical form of crisis where we see a very speculative news, or news which was not supposed to come in the time till its maturity was felt, we do come across those occasions. If any viewpoint you have, and you can share with us, how do we deal with such
Priti,
crisis?
I lost you.
Sorry, should I repeat my question? Should I repeat my question, Richa?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I was saying, often for PR people, crisis can appear, and the nature of crisis could be a speculative news which is reported, or it could have reported before the maturity. Um, some guidance from your side, how should PR people react to this, and what should our approach?
हल्का सा
So
थोड़ा
yeah, that's very interesting. That
अच्छा
what we call is the to get the news first. So what could be speculative today will be actually the real story tomorrow.
Right.
Just the question of how soon the reporter has got it or what. Now, as a journalist, as a reporter, I would say, and we say English is a beautiful language, so that is why we say is expected to do this, likely to happen, or stuff. But as a PR person, maybe you need to do the damage control because news is out before it was actually to be announced. Very understandable. I mean, both are right in their ways, in their roles here. But what can actually be done is, instead of negating it completely, see, news is out. It is in public domain. So instead of saying we don't comment on speculations, that's a standard reply which we get.
Right.
The better response which we feel could be that, and which multinationals, interestingly, Priti, you would know, adopt it more than our Indian companies, is we are constantly in talks with people for expanding our business. So if there is something at an appropriate time, you will be informed. Now that's a better way of dealing with it. Right. Instead of saying we don't respond to speculations, so that even flares up the hunger more, that there is something. Then that is why this person is saying don't respond to speculations. So I think there is a way out. There's a way how you react to it. And as I said, and I would repeat it again, that listed entities always have access to the stock exchange. Please inform there. And believe me, all the financial reporters for us, we always check what companies have informed the exchange. It is not that we don't. So if to the exchange also, news is speculative, or if it is wrong, deny it completely. If you want to keep it open ended, just say we are in constant conversation to expand the business. You don't name anything. And this, every company has to expand. Once you're stable, you want to grow. Growth is an obvious next level which you get into. So I think there is an English is beautiful, so you can use the words accordingly. There is a way out, definitely.
Right. And I can swear by my heart and many PR people that I know, we often try to understand whether not solicited to the response is better or not commenting is something as a better. So, it really hurts because we're representing a reputation for our clients and values often. So we don't respond back to the journalists, even if, we would have done a great friendship and we would have turned as professional acquaintance. It does feel to us as well, Richa, that we don't respond to some of the journalists when they are asking for clarification, and we often go quiet. But I think I take a feedback on behalf of this house that yes, you have to take the responsibility and often so come across more communicative with selecting the right words
Yeah.
rather than just vanishing away. I have a nice question here from Mr. Naresh Kumar, and he's saying sometime important news from big infrastructure government companies never take care, or we find very little information in less important page. Instead, small news of big private. I think he's talking about how do we prioritize big news versus small news and the column size treatment that we do to our news.
Yes,
Richa.
I absolutely get his point. It's like PSU versus private sector. Now, having said so, I hope I have people from oil sector also here, and I know power sector is here. So they are in oil and power and all. It is the PSUs who are the dominant players. So no one from the PSU can say that their news doesn't get there. But
Yes.
I'll tell you the reason why it happens. And I had said it earlier also. Because the communication teams of private sectors are more aggressive than PSUs. And I can very well understand where the constraints of the PSU people are also coming, because the PSU team, communication team of a PSU, is just not doing media management. They are just not looking after the news reportage and other things, but they are also handling a lot of other things. They are handling the government communications, they are handling the ads, they are handling they have just too many things to take care of. Not only taking care of their CMDs and various so many directors, but they also have to take care of the ministries. So I can very well understand. So the push, or the focused approach which the private sector has an advantage here, the PSU people are overburdened, so it goes missing. Now, that having said so, why the news of a if I got his question right, PSU doesn't make it with a splash and private sector makes it with a splash. That is what he's referring to. Then the reason is simple. Many a times your PSU news, which is big, really big, and has to be played up, you get it in a 2 paragraph statement, and rest all is the X did this and the Y did this. And so if we can just give the element of news more, maybe it would be picked up more. I don't want to take names of certain PSUs, but this again, very very personal view which I have is the way the statements come. For example, I'll take, okay, let's take PFC only. I'm just giving it as an example. It's complete. Now, PFCA is doing a lot of work as far as investments and the industry is concerned, but it doesn't come out. You would like to know why. Why isn't it coming out? So many things are happening. Why just the news gets lost somewhere? It doesn't even make it to the markets page. Why? That question is immediate. But the reason is that for a PFC or for a NTPC or for a ONGC, they will wait till all the approvals have come their way, and by the time you get the press release or the feedback, it is well past the edition time many a days. So is it not a good idea to, as I said, start communicating, call up your reporters or the beat people and say, hey, watch out, we are going to announce something big, be ready. So, you are actually building it up. You don't build up the base. You just send a thing. And the thing also is just one para or two para. So the reporter and then the reporter tries to reach you. I mean, I'm just giving PFC as an example. Everyone, please, that's my disclaimer. But, it's just a one para or two para. So then you're desperately trying, and then it's too late in the day actually to get a lot of information. So I personally feel that, you need to build it up. If you're doing some sale, sometimes sale does something very big, but when you get it, it's like already end of the day. So, you build it up, you alert the team, you alert your reporters, guys, be ready, we might announce something big today. So the reporters, you have actually created a, environment for it. And Preeti, you would know it best. Private sector does it very well.
The color.
Yes, the bit
And
of the news would be just this much.
right.
Yeah, but they would start building it at least 24 hours in advance. By this time. So the build up to it. So that actually also plays a big role. Is what I feel.
No, truly said, it's been 17 years for me, in corporate communication and in PR, and my storytelling writing has changed. And I've personally done creative writing courses every fourth year to write exactly how journalists would want to write. And if I was in the shoe of a journalist, why would I give a column size smaller than giving a splash heading? So I completely get it, Richa. I think it's a balance of color, yet explanation, yet the headline, the news, the views, everything needs to be balanced and packaged. We as storytellers, I mean, I work in agency more, but our house here represents corporate communication. We follow a bell structure appraisal system, which also would mean how much have you added or contributed to the reputational value. I have a very interesting question in the chat line, which I cannot resist. It says, what is a performance appraisal system for journalists?
Journalists, it's all black and white, let me honestly tell you, because a reporter is as good as his last story. We just, it's there black and white. So we just know how many and where you are. And for the and journalism is not only reporters, you have editorial desks, you have rewriters, so it's like the whole thing. But as far as reporters is concerned, we are right there. We are like our unlike our netas who go every 4 years to give their report card, we are giving it every day. So, and we are as good as our last story, because you know you read it, you forget it, what next, you have written it, you forget. But then here comes a very interesting point of volumes versus value. I mean, are we looking at volumes, or are we looking at what is the kind of story which has come? So we prefer a story which has been written today and see how many have followed up my story. And today, we are in a news world where no reporter, there's no concept of exclusive anymore, because every news is out there in open. So challenge for us reporters is that how we make every news your story. So how and what you do makes it so different than what others have written. So it's a very challenging time for us as a reporters also, and very exciting times. But we have no shades of gray. It's all black and white in our field. You write this, it's seen by everyone, not only your reporting authority, but everyone, what you have written, what you have not written, how you have written. So yeah, there's no shades of gray for us. Sadly, we can't, say, oh, I did it 100 years. No, what you did yesterday is what is mattering.
Right, right. And we are, Richard, towards the last 5 minutes of our conversation. I'll ask one question and I'll leave it to you to sum this up in terms of one takeaway that this entire house should take. But continuation to how digitization, uh, we all are peer people, Copcom, we understand what is the influence and what is the credibility that comes with bylines and comes with print media and when journalists write it. Now, you guys, there's this new influencer breed, who's doing everything. So they are following and chasing and replicating what journalists are. And their KPIs from the fact is how many news they take, but what is the virality of their news, right? So do we see those KPIs taking away the authenticity and the prime position that journalists have? If I for an illustration, I have a tech blogger who would break a news, and because he has 20 lakh followers for an illustration, while a newspaper is circulated only to about 20 lakh houses, do we compare that? Have you ever heard back from any of your journalist peer group?
So no, journalists, we don't compare that. We are very, very comfortable in our skin. We know we have a role,
Yeah.
and that cannot be like, I have for almost over a decade now heard, oh, TV has come and electronic media has eaten away print. No, we are there, and
Yeah.
all of you here want to read what the newspaper writes. So in no way. Similarly, yes, we have a lot of people who are bloggers, who have their own thing and they're breaking. But as I said, you may break a story, you may have XYZ number of followers, but people still want to know the whys of it, the wheres of it, how of it. You may not have that. So it's nice that everyone wants to write. It's nice. We journalists welcome everyone in our space. As I said, we are very comfortable in our skin. We're not scared of competition. But what is sad is how motivated are these news.
Yeah.
That's very important. When we speak to our people, we mostly say, uh, Priti and Richa are friends. Priti is into technology. Priti calls her and says, Richa, Samsung is doing this and Nokia did this. That's because she has that inside information. She shared it. Richa is not, I'm talking Richa, a blogger, suppose. I go and the Samsung is doing this one is doing, remember this many years ago, this had happened. Fine. And you had 80,000 people following you, tick, great news, great news. But then that's it. How Samsung did it, what happened to it, the revenue, where technology is one aspect, but the business is a different aspect. So, a blogger has her own space. A reporter, a journalist has his or her own space. No one can take each other's, space. many a times we get a call, I mean, I also get a call. I want to give you a breaking news. I said, let me decide whether it's a breaking news or not. You just tell me what the news is, and then I'll decide whether it is a breaking news or, on a lighter note, let me say now, this is a most abused word now, breaking news.
Sensation.
Because everything and anything is a breaking news today. The whole concept of breaking news is, I don't know what.
No, great. We have a similar question, which is about
PR
how
person has a particular role.
right, right. Sorry, you were breaking, and
Yeah.
I thought you ended your answer. Sorry.
No. So yeah, so that's what, everyone has a proper role to play, proper space, and then there's no competition here.
Right. So I was saying there's a question from Vinal Call, and I think you've answered that as well. He's talking about how has journalism progressed in India. I think from a very different perspective, the golden rule of reporting, the space which is widening and embracing many new form of writing stays there, and the influence for print can never be taken away. With that, Richa, I would like to really wrap this up, but we'll have to hear that one last thing from you, in terms of the bringing back to the topic PR and media and how to break and make this more synergistic. So maybe one last parting away conclusion from your side.
Yes, so surely as I said earlier, I would like to repeat again that, somewhere down the line, I find that the communications or the channels have broken down. And pandemic can be used as a proper situation or a tool, look at the positive side of it and start communicating. No, not through WhatsApp, not through just the lower cadres, but start communicating with each other. uh, revive that, that media call concept which you people had, and it really makes a lot of difference, because you are exposing people to what your company is, what your product is, what you're just sanitizing people again on the other people who matter to you. So I think it's very, very important that the communication channels and skills are kept open.
Sure, Richa, this is really interesting. And like I said, today's session was my personal favorite to have sit across you and moderate this session. And thanks PR Society Delhi chapter for giving us this opportunity. I think we had a great house and great question coming in my chat line. Over to you, Shubham.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your valuable time, for taking out time from your busy schedule and joining us today. I, Shubham Saurav, on behalf of Public Relations Society of Delhi, whose registered name is Public Relations Society of India Delhi chapter, would like to thank and congratulate the governing body members, our chairman, Sri Naresh Kumar ji, our always positive vice chairman, Dr. H.S. Paul ji, our dynamic secretary, Sri S.S. Rao sir, our guiding force and joint secretary, Sri Sandesh Tiwari ji, inspiring treasurer, Sri J.P. Sharma ji, executive members, Akshay Chopra from Power Grid and Tanvi Singhal from REC Limited, veterans, Sri G.S. Baba Sahab, J.P. Dhondial ji, and Sri K.M. Dhawan ji from Scope. Special thanks to our members, Sri Rajat Gupta ji and Jitendra Bakshi ji, also Jairam sir from PRCI who have joined us today. I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude towards Sri Anil Sabharwal ji, ED, PR and HRD, Power Grid, and Sri Rajiv Goyal ji, Head of PR HPCL, and all the people who have joined us today from AdFactors PR and other colleagues from the marketing and corporate communications fraternity for taking out time from your schedules and joining us for today's program. Thanks to all the students who have joined us from GD Goenka University, Sohna Road, Patna Women's College, Makhanlal Chaturvedi University of Journalism, Jamia, Lake University, Bhopal, Admas University, Kolkata. Stay tuned to GenNext for more such updates and trivia. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.